In Putin's case, he has thrown away the Soviet addendum to the rules for continental empire. What was that one? No hot wars. If you think about Soviet rulers, they were all veterans of World War II through Leonid Brezhnev. And they understood that war is easy to get into, hard to get out of, very unpredictable. So for them, it was proxy wars. And they loved it when the United States got into hot wars. What is not to like about the Korean War and the Vietnam War, with the United States just tied down and Americans tearing each other's eyes out about these things? Great, great, great. Russians stayed out of it until after Brezhnev's stroke, which that's when they make the big boo-boo in Afghanistan. And they go into Afghanistan. And then all of a sudden, we have loads of fun giving Stinger missiles to the other sides, inflicting costs on the Russians. And the person who wanted to get into Afghanistan is Yuri Andropov, who was not a veteran. The uniformed military of Russia said, don't go into Afghanistan. Well, Andropov and friends ignored it, did their thing. If you look at Putin, he has risen to power on a diet of hot wars. He comes to power in the early phase of the Second Chechen War, where he levels the Chechen capital of Grozny and leaves most of the rest of Chechnya an environmental waste zone. But he sorts that one out. And then he gets quite popular for his war with Georgia in 2008, where he detaches South Ossetia and Abkhazia from Georgia. Now he wants to build a naval base in Abkhazia because he's having trouble with his base on Crimea. And then when he eliminates term limits for himself in 2012, which isn't very popular in Russia, he solves that by going into Ukraine in 2014 and walks off with about 7% of Ukrainian territory at very little cost. And Russians think that's great. So if you look at these little stepping stones, this is the way continentalists look at it. You got all these little places lined up. You want to color it in, and that's where Ukraine comes in 2022. So Putin wants to reverse all these territorial losses. He wants the green things and the purple things. And I don't know if he wants to do the Napoleonic Wars, I suppose, go all the way to Paris. Who knows? And here's how he looks at NATO, or doesn't look at it. NATO, you can look at when people join. There are two great big periods of accession to NATO. One is in the early Cold War, when all the smaller countries of Europe, which is everybody, right? We're all smaller than Russia. But the Europeans joined to protect themselves from Soviet imperialism. And then at the end of the Cold War, when these Soviet satellites can finally slip the leash, I've given you all the reasons why, they stampede into NATO. It is not NATO tricking them to join. They're stampeding in for excellent reasons. They've been proven right. And then with Putin, when he works his magic the second time around in Ukraine in 2022, this is when the Finns and the Swedes decide neutrality's not going to cut it. We got to join NATO. But when Putin looks at this, he goes, oh, they're coming at us in arcs. Well, this is ludicrous. Russia has posed an existential threat to these places forever. No one today wants to invade Russia. Who'd want it? It's full of Russians. We want them to stay home, right? There's no one there who wants Russia. So the Russians like to gaslight everybody else like you're the problem. And it's been very effective. Lots of Americans will talk about NATO expansion and say, oh, this is why Putin went to Ukraine. You did NATO expansion. He's gaslighting everybody. Russians are the problem, and also it is their totally dysfunctional domestic system that offers everybody else nothing but problems instead of focusing on that and fixing it so they can be a productive member of the rest of the world. They're not doing that. They're just invading other people.
If you enjoyed this clip, you can watch the full episode here and subscribe for more clips. Thanks.